Welcome to the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Oprah Winfrey is at it again. Now, as you all know, that this woman has done very well in America. Oprah has been able to be successful because or due to the support of white Americans, of white folks that have supported and still support this woman all the way. And yet, she has the nerve, the audacity, the gall to cry racism. It is mind-blowing. And they hold a straight face when they say it. And they don't give any proof that it's about racism. They use some dumb excuses that is racist. When will racism ever go away on the part of white people? If anything, they need to deal with black racism toward white folks. Oprah, all racists just have to die. Here's them on black treatment around the world.
The issue of the civil rights movement and the way that black people around the world are treated, particularly, I suppose, around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world. My point is, when will black Americans or black people around the world stand up and be good folks, and work hard and overcome the past? BBC guy says, so problem solved. Oprah says, problem not solved.
Are you saying problem solved?
I'm saying problem not solved. I'm saying that, that's the beauty of a film like The Butler, and it's the beauty of a film like 12 Years a Slave, and it's the beauty of what we're seeing, on stage with Scottsboro Boys, is that it allows people to see where the root of the problem started. It allows people to see, oh, that's where it all started. This is how far we've come, and now this is how much farther we need to go.
Amazing. Now, that's why I don't watch those black slave films. They're filled with hatred. There's nothing loving about it, and most of the stuff is not true. It's all emotional. It's to get you riled up and more become angrier at white Americans. Where will the problems be solved?
There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
Oh, my God. And where are those people, Oprah? She's not really presenting any facts, any proof. You notice that? No proof, no facts, just say it. I remember some years ago now when Oprah kind of first started out way back when, black people didn't like Oprah because, and not all blacks, of course, but most didn't like her because she had too many white people on her show. And they were complaining about that. They were complaining that she wasn't black enough. She was acting white. And so maybe black people put a guilt trip on her about her wealth and not being black enough. And so she repeats what she think that they need to hear. The haters, that she repeats what she think they need to hear about white people. And white folks, not all but most, have allowed themselves to be so guilt-ridden. I mean, they'll just filled with guilt for the plight of black folks, believing that they're really being held down because of racism. It's not true, white Americans. Black people are being held down for maybe three reasons. One is the destruction of the family. They don't have that love. They don't have love in their hearts. So life is tough for them. They have no values, moral values. They've lost that. And so that's why they can't succeed in this great nation. And they hate white people. They hate white people, and in their hatred, they think that white people hating them because they're so prideful in their anger and their racist attitude toward whites that they can't see that it's them. They think it's someone else. And this is why you must tell them the truth. Oprah says Obama's disrespected because he is black.
Has it ever crossed your mind that some of the treatment that Obama and the challenges he's faced and some of the reporting he's received is because he's an African American, and if he wasn't an African American, if he was a white guy, those wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have been treated in quite the same way. He wouldn't have to deal with quite the same confrontations.
Level of disrespect. When the senator yelled out, "You're a liar," remember that? Yeah, I think that there's a level of disrespect for the office that occurs. And that occurs in some cases and maybe even many cases because he's African American.
Wow. This woman is insane. This woman is a liar, folks. You know what it is, America? People like Oprah is setting this up, but they have set it up already. So you really can't disagree with the fallen Messiah. They don't want him exposed for what he is and what he's doing. They try to shut you down by saying that if you disagree with this man, Obama, you're disrespecting him. Never mind that Obama is a far-left, liberal, socialist, redistribution of wealth, black liberation theologist, racist. Obama is the office, and he is disrespecting himself, trying to destroy the country, and people like her want you to shut up so he can do it. And they're trying to intimidate you by saying if you disagree with this guy openly, then you are being disrespected. You're disrespecting the office. No, you're not. You're telling the truth about a liberal. And white Americans, stop giving into this crap. It's never going to end as long as you give into it. This is manipulation by intimidation. That's what it's all about. They need to deal with black racism toward whites. And that's what they need to deal with, black racism toward white folks. If they truly cared about the country or the office, they would deal with black racism.
And they just have to die.
Peace to the YouTube community out there. It's your boy Ishmael Law coming at you again. Just wanted to respond back. I had got an email sent to me. A sister had asked a question if I knew anything about white slavery. And I do, and I'll be happy to share the information with you. Two books that I would probably recommend for you to get for a good foundation of white slavery is They Were White and They Were Slaves. It's by Michael Hoffman. It's a decent book, as well as White Cargo. This is by two authors, Don Jordan and Michael Walsh. So again, White Cargo and They Were White and They Were Slaves. White slavery has been in America. There have been white slaves in America for over 100 years. I'm talking about the hidden history of white people not knowing that they were slaves. This happened for over 100 years. There's a professor at Yale, David Bryan Davis is his name, and the quote that's coming from David Bryan Davis, October 11th, 1990, is that as early as the 14th to the 15th century, white slaves were shipped to multiple countries. It was labeled as like a booming slave trade during that time on the markets in the Black Sea coast, in the Italy, Spain, Egypt, and the Mediterranean islands, as well as Barbados to Virginia. I'm going to focus right now particularly on, since we're dealing with America, the Barbados to Virginia connection. Again, that's the 14th to the 15th century of white slaves being used. Barbados during that time would literally beat their white slaves to death. I think you probably need a good synopsis or picture of exactly what was going on, where these slaves were coming from. I'm sure if you have any basic history about it, you would know that the slaves came from England. A good idea of kind of like the way to see what that life was like is to study Oliver Twist, the movie for y'all to check out. It'll explain to you that the English slums of the 17th, the 18th, and the 19th century, they were considered the pits of white suffering. Maggots all in the trash. They were eating scraps. They were cold, wearing rags for clothing. Very, very poor condition. So definitely check that out. And also during Oliver Twist times, they would like have the children, and they would have them as chimney sweeps, and they were called human brooms, because they would go down, take a little 6-7-year-old kid, shoot them down there to clean out the chimneys and stuff. So they were doing the child labor stuff, but it was a very, 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 very poor country at that particular time. England historian William Inglis, He stated in 1836 that the starving agricultural laborers of southern England are worse off than the American Negroes. So again, the condition was very, very bad over in England. That was even in the 1800s that they were worse off than the American Negro. That was by an eyewitness. And America was considered England's dumping ground. England was later, they replaced America later on with Australia. That's the foundation of how Australia was found by the English. It was the dumping ground of their prisoners, of their underclass, of their totally unwanted. First it was America, then it was Australia. In one of my previous tapes, I stated that I had went to Sydney, Australia, and if you go to Sydney, Australia, it's definitely a place that you should try to go in your lifetime. There's an area in Australia called the Rock District, and if you go down to the Rock, right now it's like a bunch of like bars, and it's kind of a trendy area, but it's actually it was like a slaving post. It's where a lot of the white slaves that went to when they were originally sent to Australia. Again, that's called the Rock District in Australia. Now, the other good book is The White Cargo. I like it. It's gives you a good overall view of white slavery and stuff. Again, white people are just coming up on this information themselves. It's like an awakening. And white people actually, they starting to get a little angry that they starting to realize that they was being robbed of their own history. You know what I mean? So anyways, The White Cargo book, it's a study of white slavery, and a nice chunk of it is dealing with the slavery in Barbados in the 1600s. Now, in the 1600s, again, white people were used, I'm talking whipped in the back, hung, whole nine, work in the fields, all of that stuff. I'm talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of them being brought from England over there to work that, right? Now, the African labor, they came to the conclusion that the African labor cost less and was less troublesome because the Irish was always rebelling. Now, the Irish people, they was always uprising, and it became more hassle than what it was worth, so they just replaced it full-time with the Moors. Now, if you go to Barbados, up to this day, you go to Barbados, and you have Irish people in Barbados that's known as redlegs. It's because of the extreme blistering on their legs doing the slave labor. And the redlegs is where you get the derivative of the word redneck. Again, working out there in the fields and stuff, but because of the blistering on their legs, that's where they got that term redlegs from. And in fact, red leg to a conscious white person is the equivalent of being called a nigger. So it's highly offensive. And again, it's a throwback and a constant reminder of when white people were slaves. They tried to clean it up, which is why it's kind of tied into Moorish history, is because simultaneously as white people were being denied the history of white slavery for over 100 years in America, they were also simultaneously conditioning black people and robbing them of their history as well. They were shifting that information, burning books, hiding information, giving it to their secret societies, all simultaneously. So white people were in the dark, black people were in the dark. The people who were knowledgeable were the ruling class. Again, black people and white people as a whole, they're at odds with each other because of the same information or misinformation put out by the ruling class. And I'll leave you as I greeted you in peace.